You're not bad at feeling. It's just that you're armored. You're not terrible with your emotions. It's just that no one has ever really taught you how to be with your feelings and emotions, how to express them safely. You were not schooled in this. So it's not your cross to bear or your blame to have, right? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to really show you how these simple ways can help you express your feelings more, feel more confident, especially when you're under pressure or when, the stakes feel high inside your relationships, to express what you're feeling and what you need so you can have a healthier, happy relationship where you express yourself and your partner feels like they have an understanding of your inner world, right? Because ultimately, that's the thing that your partner and women are looking from you. They want to have an understanding of your inner world, more so they know that you have an understanding, so they feel safe that you're not going to explode and chuck emotions at them at random times, and that you're keeping a check on that. So by the end of today, you're going to know how to feel, express what you're feeling, name what you need, right, in a way that builds connection, right, connects you to your heart and doesn't make you feel weak, right, and doesn't make you feel like you're losing your power inside your relationship. I'm David Chambers. I'm a men's dating, relationship and intimacy coach. And I've been working with men for many, many years now, right? For over a decade now. And I've also been working with avoidant men in particular a lot over the last few years. And I've guided many of them from unhappiness, isolation, struggling to express their emotions, into reconnecting with partners, getting back with exes, getting on the journey to having children, and generally getting to relationships that are happy, healthy, and full of communication, where they feel safe to open up and they're safe to be themselves. So where do we start, right? Most avoidant men, we delay what we're feeling, right? We don't want to say it. We don't want to say it until it explodes, until it's like a fucking grenade, right? And when it comes out hot and heavy after a tense period of silence often, right? Where we haven't been speaking and saying anything. So the tension is high in our relationship with our partners, or we do it in ways that's so unexpected that it's just a really shock and surprise. Right? So what I want you to start learning to do is actually feeling a little bit, expressing a little bit, so that actually you're opening up your tap. So imagine you got this bucket. This is an analogy I'm going to give you. Imagine you got this bucket, and this bucket is your kind of emotions and feelings. What we want to do is have many taps, so that when the bucket starts to get full, it doesn't just overflow and you start to feel overwhelmed or numb, right? As you will often feel like, oh, I don't know what I'm feeling. I feel super numb. That usually is a sign that you're overwhelmed and the emotions are too high. So I want to show you some tools and techniques to really move through that in ways that your partner can really be with you and support you in. So why does it feel unsafe for you to speak? You spent many years, probably through childhood, like most things, or you've had relationships where you've had the feeling that no one cares about how you feel. Right? This is a really common thing for men to feel like. No one cares how I feel. Look all these examples out in the world where no one cares about us. We're dying from suicide. We're all depressed and no one cares. You need to be really mindful of where you're putting your attention, right? Because there are people that don't care, but there are millions of people that really do. There are people like me who have made their whole career to help men and understand men's feelings more and more. I spend every day listening to how men feel and helping them release some of those feelings, integrate some of those feelings so their lives are happier. We have to be really mindful where we put our attention, because we'll find whatever we want, our attention to be. Another thing often is that we have learned that if we express how we feel, it's going to be rejected, or it's going to be criticized, or it's going to be used against us to control us in some way, right? So we learn to stay quiet. And I'm thinking of one of the guys who was in my recent program, Breaking the Chains of Avoidance. He really didn't express himself to his partner. He had gone for a family where no one really expressed how they felt. It was very normal for just quietness and a lack of expression. And his lack of expression wasn't just words. It was also just his body. He didn't express himself joy or sadness through his body at all. And by the end of the program, there was a last session where everyone talked about to him, and I said to him, how much we can see the smile on his face and how he expresses himself, right? So more openly, with joy and a range of feelings and emotions. And he went on to tell us actually that his partner had told him how it's such night and day from him at the beginning of the program to now, right? And a lot of his story was like he didn't feel like it was safe. He couldn't respond in the moment the way he wanted to, right? So I'm going to talk about some of the details about how to shift this. So the armor, right? There's this armor we have There's avoidant men that's like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't feel anything. No one cares about how I feel. I don't know how to express my emotions. Do I even have emotions? Like, emotions are weak, right? Emotions shouldn't be expressed. We learn this through the men around us. We learn this through society. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. I'm sure you've heard, if you listen to other episodes of mine where I talk about feelings and emotions, which there are many, you realize that I can talk quite openly about how I feel and so forth, right? And the importance of doing that and how that shifted my life. The key here is the story we tell ourselves, one, about feelings and emotions is really important. If we keep telling ourselves and looking for evidence that no one wants to hear it, no one wants to hear it, it won't change, right? You're still going to just be stuck in this place of not expressing and feeling afraid of expressing your feelings and emotions. So I want you to have these 5 principles in mind, right? You're never going to say it perfectly. It's not possible to say whatever you're feeling, you're never going to say it perfectly, but you want to be saying it anyway, right? You want to choose to express more than you normally would, right? This is a practice I often get my clients into, is just practicing it, saying more than they normally would, especially when you've got maybe a partner where you're like, they're like, how are you? Like, I'm fine. You want to start shifting that fine into, yeah, I'm fine. And also I'm a little bit worried about X, Y, and Z, or I'm feeling excited about this. Just a little bit more, to practice saying a little bit more, right? 3 is you want to own your own message. And what do I mean by that? You want to spend far less of your mental energy, the overthinking that you do about how you feel and saying the right thing, on her reaction and how she's going to respond, and put more of that attention on what you want to say, right? Because what we're doing is we're putting so much attention on, oh my God, I don't want her to respond. Oh, her response is going to be big and she's going to get upset and all this. You know what? Part of it is you're going to say things that upset and hurt your partners and the women you date. That is part of life and dating. Yeah, we can try and say things well, but it's better to say something than to leave it for 4 or 5 weeks and not say anything, right? Because you'd be surprised that you could say something badly day 2, day 1, whatever you're feeling. And because it just gets out of the way and it gets talked about, opposed to you not talking about how you're feeling, you're not expressing that thing, and you wait 4 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, and it's built up this tension between the two of you. And then when you say it perfectly, then it's like, what you receive is all the frustration and anger of not it being said over all that time. And trust me, I've seen this so many times with men. Their partners get so frustrated with them not expressing themselves over time that anything they say becomes like, they react quite highly to it. Whereas if you start things off right, or you start to make a change today, in the future, I think life will be way, way better for you, right? And then the last point, the 5th point here, the principles, is you need to always reflect. Being reflective. This is something as avoidant men we're very poor at doing. Being reflective, looking back and go, what went well there? What didn't go well? Right? And put more attention again on yourself, not on her and what she said and what she didn't say, right? There's some important to put some attention on that, because that can give you feedback, but it doesn't get all about the reaction, and especially only thinking about the negative reaction, right? Because that's something we do way too much. So what do you need to think about when you need to think about feeling, right? To ask yourself, what am I feeling? And start with one word, like, what am I feeling? Stressed, anxious, sad, angry, shut down, numb, fearful, worried, right? Start with that one word and just acknowledge it to yourself. Just like, what's there for me, right? If we were in my program, Breaking the Chains of Avoidance, what we do there is we start to map out what the different emotions and feelings feel like in the body, right? We practice being with those feelings and emotions. And why is that important? Because when we have an idea of what it feels like to be excited but slightly stressed, when you've touched that and you've noticed that many times, when it comes to expressing it in the moment, when someone asks you how you feel, it's like that. Instead of a 5 minutes like, oh, I don't know what I feel, I need to work out how I feel, you're like, I know what I feel. I feel this tinge of sadness, of excitement and apprehension, and you can express it. Right? It's like bicep curls. The first time you do if you don't do bicep curls very often and you grab a 10 kg weight, like, it's really shaky, your arms moving, it's like, it's not smooth, right? But when you've practiced it again and again, it gets smooth and easy, right? That's what you're going for. So we've got the feelings there, right? And there's a lot of layers to the feelings, because it's like, what sort of feeling is it? Is it a reactive feeling based on your pain and trauma and reactivity? Or is it a true feeling based on what's happening in reality? And that's a different conversation to have. And the next thing we start speaking about is needs, right? Because ultimately you're going to be able to express your needs as well. Like, what do you need? And often for us, needs come up in retrospect, after the fact. Like, you had a weekend with your partner and they put in loads of plans, right? And you think, oh, I didn't really enjoy that weekend because there was so much plans. Okay, what I would have needed was a weekend where maybe we did one thing each day. Retrospect, right? So this is where you get to say to your partner, hey, something I'd love to talk about is something of what I really need is actually, when we have these busy weekends, I need to just have one thing to do each day instead of like 4 places to be, right? That's my preference. Stating a need, right? And again, you put attention on what it is you need, not on the reaction you don't want to get. Because that's something we do a lot. We're like, oh my God, I don't want to upset them. I don't want to do this. And then it stops us from saying anything. You have to trust in your capacity to hold whatever comes back, because you have it. You can hold whatever conversation that comes back, right? And then re-engage in that conversation, right? And then this next piece here actually about needs is having one request. I said it there, one doable request, right? Which is, next time, can we just have one thing a day? Now, these are these taps. The what you feel, what you need, the request. These are these type of taps, because what you're probably doing now is you have these feelings, you have these needs, you have requests, and you don't say fuck all. And then it builds up and it builds up and builds up. And then one day you just kind of go on a rant, or you just start talking and saying all these things that have been happening for the last 6 months that you're annoyed about, right? During an argument, or as a defensive counterattack to an argument that's been had. This is really shitty relational behavior, right? And part of it is because you don't have the kind of emotional capacity and emotional tools to release the taps regularly through embodiment practices, maybe breath practices, maybe having men in your life you can speak to and express yourself to, right? So it all builds up, and you don't let any of it out, right? And that's another reason why Breaking the Chains of Avoidance is amazing, because it's a group of men, all like you, that we get to share together regularly about what's going on and dissect people's, what's going on in people's lives, any issues and stuff like that. So it's really key that you regularly turn those taps. So what do you do about your feelings in the moments where times are under pressure? Maybe you're in an argument and so forth. What do you do to kind of be in those moments? Slow things down. Slow things down. If your partner is demanding a response from you in an argument, be like, hey, I just need a bit of time to give me 5 minutes. Sometimes it might be, I did an episode just before about, last week, about this. Taking space. Slow things down. Yeah, because when things move fast, that's when the pressure builds. That's when 2 people get into arguments. That's when people become reactive. So slowing things down. Yeah. Taking the space that you need when you need it. Really important thing to do. Yeah. Taking the space you need when you need it, because otherwise you're just going to get into these really stressed arguments, and you're never going to really get out of that. You're never going to be able to say what it is you really need and feel. But the ultimate thing, really, when it comes down to it, is you need to practice, right? You need to be practicing regularly to do this. And if you don't practice, you're never going to get good at this, right? You have to practice this, right? Every man that's in my community, every man that's been in Breaking the Chains of Avoidance says the same thing. The really unexpected benefit of being in the group, though it was promised, is their ability to express themselves emotionally to the people in their life, and how it changes their romantic relationships, their dating lives, their friendships, but also their family relationships, right? Because we practice this, right? You practice speaking about how you feel. And there's a lot of men who are like, oh, I know how I feel. I'm good at saying how you feel. And then I ask you a couple of questions that are a bit more difficult to answer. Then you're like, oh, completely clam up, just like you do when you're in front of your partner when there's an argument. You've got to practice the muscle in the system to be in those sorts of conversations. So it's the last couple of points before we wrap up. Defensiveness comes up a lot, right? What to do when you get defensive. The most important thing with defensiveness is to name it, and to notice it and name it. To say, hey, I notice I'm getting a bit defensive. That is one of the most powerful sentences you can say in a disagreement or argument. right? Even if the response is, yeah, I can see, right? It's really powerful to just name what's happening instead of hiding, because this is your habitual habit. Let me hide everything so I seem I've got it all together, I'm perfect. But actually that creates distance between your partner, and it actually creates more arguments and so forth, right? So the last point before we start to wrap up, build your language. Yeah, you've got to start learning the language of feelings and emotions. If you don't learn this language, it's going to be very hard for you to express yourself. What you need is the language of emotions. You need to be able to tune into the feelings of the emotions as well. That becomes really powerful. And then practice speaking them, but building the language, like the words: calm, tense, stressed, angry, tension in shoulders, tightness in belly, being able to vocalize what's there and express, because this is what our partners, this is what the women we meet really want from us, is to have that, to feel that we understand our inner world. And why is that so important? Because men whose inner worlds are like a black box to them occur as a bit like a kind of grenade. They're just waiting for it to go off. They don't know how you're going to respond and react to certain circumstances, which makes them feel uneasy and uncomfortable with you. This is why men who date badly, right, who aren't able to express that they have a deep understanding of their inner world of depth, they're not attractive, because you can't create safety, right? That safety of like, he is worried about the engagement party we're going to next week, because there's certain people there. If you're just quiet for weeks on end beforehand, she's like, oh, have I done something wrong? Is he angry about something? Is he pissed off about work? Is he annoyed about the kids? But when you say, hey, actually, I'm feeling a little bit worried about the engagement party coming on, she's like, oh, yeah, I get it. That makes sense. Cool. Like, is there anything I can help you with? Anything I can do for you? It creates safety, right? You don't have to divulge every aspect, but when you're just this black box, any moment you could erupt into something, yeah? Or any moment you could spring something on that makes no sense from anywhere, because you don't share what's going on from you. And that creates distance, and over time, that destroys relationships. So what did I talk about today? Just going back through my little notes here. So I talked about why you feel unsafe as an avoidant man, the principles that you need to hold true, right? And I think I might have forgotten to say one of those. Trust in your capacity. I did say it afterwards. One of those 5 principles of trust and capacity. So the first one was, you're never going to get it perfect. Then it's like, be a little bit more self-expressed each day. Own your message, right? Put your energy on your message, not on the reaction you're worried about getting. Trust in your own capacity, and, reflect and debrief of yourself. Then we talked about, feeling, the importance of feeling, coming to your needs and making a request and bundling those all together, right? And then we talked about ultimately why you get defensive, right? And what to say when you get defensive. Like to say you get defensive because ultimately you feel you're being attacked, or you've taken something personally, or you've turned the meaning of what's being said into something that it's not. And then we talked about also the importance of expressing yourself in low stakes spaces. That's why breaking the chains of avoidance is amazing, because that's what we do a lot. And then we talked about building up your language. So here we go. That's how you, for your emotions, express what you're feeling and express your needs. Now, as I said, breaking the chains of avoidance, we do this time and time again through the 12 weeks of the program. We talk about the ways you break connection, how that hurts you and the relationship. We talk about feelings and emotions. We talk about expressing yourself more wildly. We talk about sexual leadership and relationship leadership, the pillars of intimacy and creating deep intimacy, communication, dissolving defensiveness, all these things. And like I said, the results are incredible. The links below to have a look at some of the testimonials and so forth. You can be interested and learn more about that. And down below, you can also get, the link to the wait list. And there's probably also there is also the link to the full thing. And we're going to be starting really soon. We kick off on the 24th of September, which is not long away, right? And if you've been getting value from these podcasts about avoidance, then you're going to get a huge amount of value from the program. And just know that inside the program, something the men always worry about is like, am I going to be judged? Am I going to be seen as not good enough? There's nothing but pure love and support within the group, and the other men supporting each other all the way through. The men from all over the world, men from the States, Canada, Europe, UK, Ireland. So If it's piqued your interest and you know this is something you need, link down below. You can contact me if you have any questions or you want to have a chat about it as well. It's all down there. Ciao, ciao.